Welcome to the In the Know webinar, which is the QuickBooks Online monthly update webinar. This is for US region content only, although you may see some information for global content or have resource links for other regions. However, the content presented by the product managers and topic presenters is typically for US region only. Today is June 27, 2019. This is a monthly webinar, and this is the 6th for this year. My name is Wayne Daly. I'm a Senior Service and Support Specialist. I'm actually a team lead for the National Accounts Customer Success team, and I love to create and improve processes that save time for accountants and for our team internally. I've been here at Intuit for 5 years, and I work in the Tucson office. We're going to go over our agenda real quick today. Welcome attendees, as I already have. Thank you for joining us. The CPE credit eligibility, review the learning objectives, and we have 3 features for you, a couple about payroll and one about the online banking. And then we have a bunch of accountant resources at the end, which I will go through very quickly because all of the information and resource links for those are contained in the handout. So I'm going to stand on this slide for a moment to let you know that the reason we do this is because we need to hear your voice. We want to bring you the information, what we're doing in response to you asking us for feature improvements, but we also want to get your feedback about the features that we're bringing, about improvements we can make to the program, and how we can improve this webinar. That's me personally. I would love to have your emails or your suggestions in the after event survey about this webinar and how to make it better for you. This webinar offers 1.0 CPE credits. It means you need to answer at least 3 polling questions, and they are specifically timed throughout the webinar. I believe we have 5 today, so you should not have an issue meeting the minimum eligibility requirement in polling questions, and you must attend at least 50 minutes. We're scheduled for 60. I don't know if we'll fill the full hour, but I promise you we will hit the 50-minute mark. Those certificates get emailed out directly to you within 3 weeks after the training. Sometimes they do get delayed. If you haven't seen your certificate, feel free to email me at intheknow@intuit.com, and I'll look into what the delay is. But make sure that you're monitoring the email address that you use to register, and you might want to add accountant_training@intuit.com to your approved email list to ensure it doesn't go into your junk or get blocked by your internet service provider. These are the learning objectives today. Again, I'm not going to read each one of them, but we do want to identify any changes to the QuickBooks Online ecosystem. We have a couple about payroll and one about online banking. That handout is available through the GoToWebinar control panel and also for download as a bit.ly link. If you cannot access that download through either of those options, send us an email at intheknow.com, intheknow@intuit.com, excuse me, and I will make sure that I email a copy out to you. I'm going to pause here for a moment as we talk about the computer audio. There is no dial-in phone number for In the Know webinars. It is computer audio only, and since that is beyond my ability to troubleshoot or for our team to troubleshoot, we like to leave these steps up just in case somebody can see the slides and not hear my voice. It always gives me an opportunity to remind you to use your question log. If you're unable to hear me, our team will respond to you and provide you options for how to fix that. If you can hear me, then great, we're just going to keep moving forward. So our first presenter today is going to be bringing some wonderful information to us about the run process or payroll enhancements through the run payroll flow. Our presenter today is Disha Patel, and she is a product manager for QuickBooks Online Payroll, and she has been with Intuit for about 1.5 years, working in several different departments, so she's got a wealth of information and knowledge. She's located in our Mountain View office, and thank you so much for presenting today, Disha.
Thank you, Wayne. Welcome, everybody. So we'll go into the enhancements that Wayne mentioned. I'll cover 3 of them. The first one is the quick access to employee setup from Run Payroll Flow. So starting May 31st, everybody who has QBOP or QBFSP in the US will be able to access employee setup right from the Run Payroll Flow without exiting it. So you've cut the number of clicks from 10 to 5, And we're also increasing confidence in small businesses because now they don't have to leave their on payroll flow with information that was entered in there. So we'll see a quick demo of this. So here we start, come in and we're trying to run payroll. This is my hours entry screen that you might be familiar with. I'm picking a future pay period. And now I want to change something for employee number 3. And I was able to go right into setup, add overtime, double overtime, save the change. And then I come right back on the hours entry screen, and I see that the 2 pay types have now come up here, so I can enter my hours and just go on processing the payroll. So that's quick enhancement. That was enhancement number 1. The second one is preview payroll details before submitting payroll. So this we've been getting feedback for quite a while now, and the feedback is I want to be able to see details of my payroll before I submit it. So what the entire QB Star P base in the US will have now is this CTA, this call to action. When you click on preview payroll details, this report opens up with a breakdown of the taxes, the deduction calculations, all of it organized by employees. And the third enhancement is autofill hours. And I have a demo for both number 2 and number 3, so we could get into that afterwards. But just a quick verbal overlay here for autofill. What the ability that the user will have now is to import hours from previous pay runs. And these hours will be available for regular pay, overtime, and double overtime. The button will show up right on top of the hours entry table. And this option won't be available for users who have T-sheets enabled because that's where their hours are coming from today. If they're using QBO timesheets, then this option is not available. If you don't have existing pay run data, so you can only import hours if you have hours from the past to import. So if all of those requirements are met, then the user gets this feature. And beyond just import previous hours, we also have import frequently used hours. And the beauty of this feature is that if you import hours and then if you wanted to remove them altogether, there's an option to do that collectively. So let's go into a demo here. And this demo combines second and third. So here a user comes in, they're manually entering hours, and it can be quite time consuming depending on the number of employees that you have. And here the user just went in and imported previous hours. And then if they wanted to remove them, you can remove previous hours. But the beauty is the hours that you entered by your hand, those still stay. So if you make a change to any hours, so for example, I'm going to change the overtime to 1 hour and then remove hours, the one that you changed still remains. So you have a lot of flexibility in editing and what you want to remove versus leave in the hours entry screen. So hours are now populated. I go through and I go to preview payroll, and here I can preview the details of this pay run. The information is organized by employees. All of the details are on the right-hand side. All the tax rates, the deductions, contributions, everything. And this report is very similar to what you would see after you've submitted payroll as well at the end. The good thing is we've also added a watermark with preview only so that the user remembers that it's still a preview and they still need to go through and submit the payroll. And now we've submitted payroll, so you'll see at the bottom there's another option to view payroll details. And that was it for the demo. Would love your questions and feedback at this point.
Thank you, Disha, for your presentation today. We appreciate your time. I do have some questions coming through.
Okay.
Now, some of the questions came through before you were actually done, so you may have answered them during your
Okay.
presentation, but we're going to go over them anyway, just to make sure that we're capturing everything. One of the questions is if you leave the screen to add details to an employee and have already added hours to other employees, will you lose that data that has already been entered?
The hours stay. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. That the hours actually stay, and that's part of why it's increasing confidence. Because in the past, when users left the flow, all of the information was erased unless they clicked save for later. But in this case, your hours would stay. Yes, it's a great question.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Now, one of the questions, it looks like it says they'd like to know how they get back and reprint the Excel payroll details report. Could you walk through that again for us? Would that be okay?
Yeah. So the great thing is with the preview payroll details report. So this one that you see, that preview report is only available on the preview step. Once you've gone ahead and submitted payroll, then you have another final report on that last page. And that one you can actually come in and print anytime. So for example, I'm just going to quickly do the demo again. And then, so this is the preview report. And the next step after preview is submitting payroll. And then once the user has submitted payroll, what you'll see is, there we go. And so once you've submitted payroll, you'll see at the bottom, view payroll report again. So that's the final report that you could access afterwards, or there's also another place within the software itself where you could go and download it at any time in PDF or Excel.
Excellent. And on that preview report, does that also show the pay period? Does it show the pay range and the pay period and the pay date?
It does. Yes, it does. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm getting a lot of great feedback. Everybody seems to be really enjoying. All I'm seeing is this seems to be a great improvement and good new features. So I'm scrolling through a couple of questions. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can find something else.
Okay.
Somebody has already seen it, said they found it yesterday.
Okay, great.
There is one question. Has this been rolled out to all of QBO payroll users?
Yeah, so this is autofill is only out to 20% of the total population of QBOP, but both the other ones, so quick access to employee setup and the preview payroll, they're out 100% to everybody in the US.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I want to thank you for your time in bringing this to us. Obviously, our accountants really love this feature. There's a lot of great feedback getting brought into the question log, and I'll make sure I get all that feedback over to you. But at this point, I believe that we're going to go ahead and launch into our second poll question. Disha, if you would.
Yeah.
And I will go ahead. So our next presenter is going to bring us suggested rules in QuickBooks Online. It's about the online banking page. And our next presenter is Lucy Wagner, who's a product manager in QuickBooks Online. She's actually on the QuickBooks Data In team, and that's how they automate data in our banking. She has a passion to help solve problems for our customers. She's been with Intuit for 2 years, and she's in our Mountain View office. Thank you for presenting today, Lucy.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Thank you all for joining and taking the time. And yeah, so today I'm going to walk through our suggested rules experience in QBO banking. And this experience is live to most of our users now, so some of you may have seen this. And I'm going to start by just playing a video of the experience. And so what this is while reviewing transactions, a way to surface smart rule suggestions to our customers. So in this video, you'd say, I just added a Lyft transaction. And then when I add a second transaction with the same transaction description, there's a prompt, do you want to create a rule to always do this when reviewing? And so clicking yes opens this create rule experience where the user can review, choose whether or not they want it to be an auto add rule where transactions are automatically added to the books. In this case, as the user selected yes, you can see up at the top, 27 transactions have been added to your books. And so some of you may have seen this, and the one reason that our team has been working on this is really in order to reduce work both for accountants and our small business owners. And so the thought here is if we can basically help users learn from what we're seeing behavior in the product and suggest rules, that can save our customers time in the future. This was also based on some feedback we've heard around those green predictions. So many of you may be familiar with this. In this fuzzy screenshot, you can see some of these categories are green. So in the past, we've had these kind of behind the scenes predictions based on your previous actions. And we wanted to bring kind of more visibility to those, rules we were creating and make those rules more explicit where our users have control over the experience. And let me go to the next slide. And so to dive a little bit deeper into what this experience is, as you saw in the screenshot, essentially a rule is prompted if a user adds 2 transactions that have the same details. Specifically, our cleaned up transaction description is the same, and we see the user add the transactions using the same category and or payee. And if we see that those match, we'll then have a prompt for rule creation. And we actually have a couple of different versions that are live right now that are being tested. The majority of users have the experience that you just saw on the screen prior, which is, hey, we suggest a rule, we have this pop-up, and then if the user says yes, get started, that then pops up our create rule experience where you can review all of the criteria, make any changes, and then save the rule, and we will kind of apply that rule to existing and future transactions. And we're also testing an experience, which you can see in the bottom right here, where we don't launch this separate create rule page. And so in this experience, which some of you may be seeing in some of your customers' files, with the suggested rule prompt, the user can, in that same pop-up, review the rule, choose whether or not they want it to be an auto add rule where the transactions get automatically moved to the book. And then you can click create rule from there, and at that point we will create the rule and apply it. And it's, like I said, live to the majority of our US customers. And then as we finalize the experience on which of these kind of flows is what will roll out, generally, we will provide another update with that information. And then just a couple of other things I want to voice over. One of them is that you can turn this feature off. And so you can see in these 2 screenshots here, there's this blue text, don't show me this again. And so if you click on that, that will actually, hide this experience. We won't show it anymore. You can also access that on the banking page, above where you see all of your transactions listed. In the upper right, we have a little gear icon, which is where you can access a bunch of settings related to the data we present to you. And one of those is a setting called Show Suggested Rules. And so you can toggle it on or off from that view as well. And then lastly, these rules that are created, they'll show up in the rules list alongside any other rules you've created for your users. And so you can access that from the banking experience by going to the Rules tab. And these rules that we create in the background, it's kind of hard to see in the screenshot, but we prepend the word suggested in parentheses to the rule name. And so if the user doesn't change that rule name, that's one way to identify in the rules list which rules have been created in this manner. And so that is the overview of the experience, and would definitely love any questions and feedback that you all have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lucy, for presenting today. And I do have quite a few questions that are coming through. So the question is stated, when you say yes to adding a rule, does it populate the rule box, or do you have to populate the rule box yourself?
So if I'm, just make sure I'm understanding this correctly, if the rule box is this screen, this screen is pre-populated with what we see. So it would have a rule name, it'll be defaulted to applying that rule to all bank accounts, and then the condition that we're going to be applying is when the transaction description contains whatever the keyword is. In this one, it's KFC personal, which is the dummy data that we've been using. And then we'll set the category, and then if there's been a payee, class, or location populated, we'll also preset that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
So can you indicate threshold amounts? Is there any way of building in a way to indicate threshold amounts to help detect fraudulent transactions?
Ooh, that is a great feedback. We don't threshold amounts. If whoever wrote that could say more about that in the question log, would love to dive into that further.
Awesome.
I haven't heard that use case yet, but would definitely be up to exploring that.
Awesome. Very cool. So, yep. Whoever posed that question, we do have your email address, and Lucy, you'll get their contact information.
Okay, great.
In case if they don't expand on it in the question log, you'll be able to send them an email and get that information directly from them.
Okay, perfect.
Why do you even need a rule if the program already populates suggested payee and account allocations based on history for the payee? So what brought about this automatic rule? How did we come to this place that we need this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so what we've heard when talking to our customers is that for some people are, looking at historically what the user has done and then predicting kind of for future transactions. For some people, it's really useful. And for others, we found it actually creates a lot more work when you have, for a transaction description, something that is not always consistent. And so we brought previously an ability to kind of turn off those predictions if you didn't want it. But by bringing kind of more control where you can actually choose, like, yes, I like this particular prediction in this case, but not in this other case, we can just give an additional level of control.
Awesome. One of the questions I had is there a way to turn this feature off? If somebody doesn't want to, I know at the beginning, we're going to get a lot of these automatic rules popping up because it's going to have to learn, but do they just, in the event that they don't want to have this, is there a way our customers can turn this feature off?
Yep, and I think I mentioned that, but just here, so either when you're seeing the prompt, you click the blue link, that will turn off the experience, or in the transactions, that grid in the upper right-hand corner, there's a gear icon where you can, disable or enable the suggestions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lucy. This is a great. I've had a lot of great feedback coming through the question log. We're going to make sure we get all that feedback over to you. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and move us into our next poll question. So our last presenter today is going to bring us some exciting improvements to the payroll overview screen for QuickBooks Online Payroll. Our presenter is Liz Harder, and she is a product manager for our online payroll team. Specifically the payroll overview screen. She's an advocate for what's being built in the product to ensure that it's useful for our customers. She's been at Intuit for a year, and she's also in our Mountain View, California office. Liz, thanks for presenting today.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah,
oh, actually, you guys can't respond, but I can see. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. As Wayne mentioned, I'm working for the QuickBooks payroll team. So today we'll be talking specifically about online payroll, whether that's full service or do-it-yourself self-service payroll. So one of the initiatives that we've had on the payroll team is to create a new landing page. And that's because, as many of you know, the current landing page of payroll is the employees list page. It's where you can see your employees' information, and there's a nice graphic on your total payroll, and you can run payroll from that screen. But there's never been a full dashboard where you can really understand all of your payroll. So our initiative was to build that new landing page with this guiding principle of complete confidence and no surprises. And that's because payroll is a very task-intensive job that people need to complete. And so often we hear from our customers that they were surprised about suddenly they had to pay a tax, or suddenly there was a file that had to be a form that had to be filed. So what we wanted to do was try and eliminate these surprises and make people feel confident that they knew what they were doing in order to run payroll. So looking here, there's a lot on this slide, but what we'll first focus on is the image on the right. So the image on the right is a snapshot of what our overview screen currently looks like in product. On the top, where it says payroll is in 4 days, this is what we're calling the wellness box. This is an area where we will give people the quick glance, the thumbs up, thumbs down on, are you okay to run payroll? And if you are, how many days do you have until payroll is due? Now, if you move down, we have a to-do list, and this is kind of the bulk of our overview screen right now. And the point of the to-do list is to consolidate all those various tasks that payroll customers need to complete, and not only tell them what needs to be completed and when, but also help navigate them towards where they can complete those tasks. So as you can see here, we're highlighting that this customer has overdue taxes. That's a really important thing that they need to address as soon as possible. So we've put that at the very top of the to-do list and accentuated it with this yellow exclamation point. You can also see that there's a form that needs to be filed that's a little overdue. And there are taxes that are coming up. Now, feel free to ignore some of the dates here if they don't seem to line up in the accountant mind. It's because this is just a visual mock-up. But that to-do list is really that core engine of this overview screen. Now, up in the top right corner, you see shortcuts. So right now, what we want is, through the overview screen, people should have access to the rest of the payroll product. And there are lots of different tabs within the payroll product, and it's easy for people to get lost or not know where to find what's needed for them. So what we have right now are the top 4 shortcuts, and that is Run Payroll, which brings you directly into the Run Payroll flow. You can add an employee through this screen. You can also pay a contractor or add a contractor. Now, given that a lot of our customers may not have contractors to pay or add, 50% of these shortcuts may not be very useful for them. So what we're currently looking into is, what could we replace these 2 shortcuts with? And in the comment section, this isn't an official poll question, but I'd love to hear, what are the shortcuts you'd want to see here? If you were going through payroll and you wanted that quick, easy access to something, what would that be? So if you wouldn't mind writing in that comments. Then right below, we have a section that is used for educating our customers. So as I mentioned before, payroll is incredibly complicated, and people often don't know the ins and outs of, say, what's the difference between an employee and a contractor, or when do I need to pay this certain tax, or why do I need workers' compensation? And we want to educate our customers as they're using the product so that they don't always have to ask their accountant or their advisor what these different things mean. In this box right here, what we'll also do is help advertise other features of the product. And that does not mean that we're necessarily trying to upsell our customers. There are many, many features that are underutilized throughout our product that are completely free. So for example, direct deposit is a really great way for people to pay their employees faster, not have to deal with printing checks. So this would be an area where we would help raise awareness about that feature. Below that, you can see upcoming. The reason why this is slashed out is because I wanted to give an accurate representation of what is currently in the product. And we are working on upcoming to tweak it a little bit because we were finding it was a little overwhelming how we were presenting it before. But in the upcoming section, what we want to do is give people a sense of what's on the horizon. So of course you have your to-do list, which are things that need to take action on immediately, but we also don't want anything to be a surprise, as we mentioned before. So if you have quarterly taxes coming up in a month, you want to know that so you can start to prepare your cash flow and be ready to make those payments. Then on the very bottom, we have a celebration box. Now, this is an opportunity for small business owners to celebrate their employees. They are reminded of when there's an employee birthday, so they can write a card or bring in some cupcakes to the office that day. In this box, we also celebrate work anniversaries, so that is logged in when you add your employee. So this is sort of a snapshot of what the overview screen could look like. And again, it changes based off of what state your customer is in. So if we go over to the top left, there are a couple things that this overview screen really aims to do. One is helping people get set up. That's something that you're not seeing in this screen, but the new onboarding flow really takes advantage of this to-do list and and walks people through every single step of getting set up properly with payroll. The other thing we focus on is keeping customers compliant on tasks. Again, that relates back to that to-do list, making sure they know what needs to be completed and when. We want to make this page an access point to the rest of the product. This is your control center. When you come into payroll, this is the one place you need to land, and it can navigate you wherever you need to be. So that's where the shortcuts come in, and that's also where the to-do list is. And lastly, we're raising awareness through that box that I mentioned before, where we can educate our customers, or we can also help advertise different features in the product that they may not be using that might be beneficial to them. Now, in terms of our rollout, as of March 22nd, we are at 100% of new customers. So anyone who creates a payroll account since March 22nd should receive the overview screen. And we're around 33% of existing customers on the overview screen. We're currently rolling out to more, and that will hopefully happen in the next 2 weeks or so. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into some other states that can happen. As you can see in the top left, this is a setup flow. So when you're completely new to payroll, this is how we're going to guide you through the multiple steps that you need to do to complete that setup. You can also see that sometimes there's major action that's required. Say your billing info isn't up to date and direct deposit is set up. You want to make sure that your customer knows so that they can fix those issues before they have any problems. And when things are looking good, we let them know. No need to worry. Things are looking good. No tasks that need to be done. And when it's time to run payroll, that wellness box becomes nice and big. And even though they can pay employees through shortcuts, we want to make it really clear that it's now time to run payroll. So those are a couple of the different states, but as we go into the question and answer, there are of course so many other things that we can do to provide a snapshot of your payroll, and that's what I'd love to hear from you guys of, when your customers want to understand their payroll at a glance, what information are they looking to gather? They don't need every single detail on this page, so what are really those critical things that should be highlighted?
Thank you, Liz. That was that's awesome. We're getting a lot of suggestions, a lot of shortcut suggestions coming through the question log. But what I would like to do, for starters, let's go back 2 slides. Let's go back to your original slide that talks about the rollout and that has the overview screen there. So one of the questions that did come in, they didn't quite understand. Now, is this a mock-up or is this an actual what the new customers as of March 22nd will see, and that 33% of existing customers will see? What version of QuickBooks Online would that be taken from? Or is that a mock-up?
Yeah, so this, the reason why this may not look familiar on the side, and this is, I have so many screenshots and so many mock-ups. I think this may be a mock-up, but this is exactly how it should look in the product. The only reason why I say mock-up is because some of the dates here may not line up with when actual taxes are due. But this is exactly how it would show up in the product with these exclamation points, with the due dates here, and these different states. And then the navigation bar on the side is different because this is a mock-up from Payroll First, which is our standalone payroll product. But again, this exists in the full service and self-service online payroll product.
Perfect. Thanks for helping clarify that. Now, will these to-do items show up on the QBO dashboard home screen or only in this overview screen?
So we are moving towards having them appear only in the payroll home screen, and that's because multiple different parts of the QBO product are trying to create their own home screen. Ideally, we will have a central notification platform where all of these to-dos that people have to complete, whether it's with regards to invoicing or payroll, are all in one consolidated place. But as for now, they will primarily appear on the Workers tab.
Awesome. And just another question we have is, will our customers have the ability to customize which shortcuts they see on their overview screen so that they only see the ones they want, or will it be a one size fits all?
So currently it's one size fits all, but this is definitely something that we hear a lot of. And that's, as I mentioned before, if you don't have contractors, 50% of these shortcuts aren't relevant to you. So we want to make sure that every shortcut here are the sort of the top 4 things that you need access to. And that's why we're trying to gather information on what shortcuts are needed, so we can maybe make that, even if it's a one size fits all, it's a one size that fits most.
Awesome. Awesome. And in regard to that, today we see 33% of existing customers have this online screen. Do we know what the rollout plan is to reach 100%? Do we have an expectation for that?
Our expectation is within the next 2 weeks, we'll be at 100%. And that's just because we're at 33% now, a third of our existing customers, and we're making sure that we're fixing all the errors and any sort of performance issues that we're noticing.
Fantastic. Awesome, Liz. Well, thank you so much for your time today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and launch into our poll question today. If you want to just advance up into that poll slide, and I will go ahead and launch that poll question for you. So, accountant resources are an area that we like to populate, and the accountant resources are growing and growing. So, part of that question log, what I would like to get from you is, how do you feel about the number of accountant resources? If you go back and you look at the handouts from prior webinars, you're going to see that we keep adding to it. I don't know how long I need to keep stuff in here, and I don't want to populate it with information you don't need. So there's an after event survey. Please feel free to populate in there what is and is not relevant to you. You can also send me an email at intheknow.com, or you can populate it to the question log. Just make sure you start off your comment with accountant resources, just so I can quickly identify it. The first thing we're going to go into is the In the Know Hub. That's where you're going to go and find all of the prior recordings, as well as 2 event links for the next 2 events, so that you can register for future events. I also like to send those out in the reminder emails so that you can register for future events. Now, Intuit is coming up to the end of its fiscal year. We haven't planned beyond beyond July yet, which is why we had our first poll question about the dates. Those will be populated soon, and we will get those updated so that you guys can register for those upcoming events. There's also the Intuit community business discussion topics, a lot of forums for accountants on a lot of different areas, and you're all posting your best practices and tips on how you're using QuickBooks and getting the most out of it. Well, we're trying to centralize that with this business discussion topics area. Go ahead and visit that area. The link is in the handout that you can download from the GoToWebinar control panel. This has been here for about 5 months. This is about the business address in QBO and QBOA. A lot of our plug-in apps, the wholesale billing, the client apps, automated sales tax, payroll, payments. We've had a couple of things about payroll, online banking. Those things won't work correctly, or may not work correctly, if the address that you have in your company is not properly formatted. Steps to ensure that your address is properly formatted are included in the handout. Make sure you download that and walk through those steps. This is a new slide, and this is about merchant agreements for QuickBooks payments. This slide will provide you in the handout. There's a link to the article that provides you all of the information about agreements and legal documents that are applicable to your use of one or more of the Intuit payment processing in merchant services. It's a very useful piece of information, which is why I wanted to make sure we included it for you today. The new 2019 Desktop Enterprise Training and Certification is now live in the QBOA ProAdvisor training portal. So that's the image that you see on the left. If you go into ProAdvisor and then Training, scroll down to the bottom to where you see QuickBooks Desktop Courses. Down at the bottom of that, you'll see QuickBooks Desktop Enterprise. Now, some people have pointed out that the math doesn't make sense, that there's 4 modules at 2 hours each, but it says 9 hours. That's because we're taking into account the amount of time it's going to take you to complete the exam. So this is for 8.5 CPE for the training and the exam. So this is a great way to get your CPE requirements and get your certification in the Desktop Enterprise. We do offer a new product for our QuickBooks Online, or QuickBooks Online for small business in Mexico. They have much different requirements than what we have in the US. There is a link to go to the subscription page. That page is in Spanish. However, I did use Google Translate to go ahead and translate that page and be able to read all the details. So if you have clients that are in Mexico, this might be useful for you to go check out. The link is included in the handout. I want to make sure that I included this. We haven't had the status page in the accountant resources, but we did have a bit of an outage yesterday. These screenshots, it was either yesterday or the day before. So these screenshots are from what happened earlier this week. It'll say there was a minor outage. Some people were having trouble logging into QBO. Some people are having trouble accessing the training. If you're ever having any issue, if you're having a service outage or interruption in QuickBooks, this is a great page to go and check to see if it's actually an issue that we know about. And if it is, you can subscribe and be notified as soon as we've resolved that issue. If you don't see anything on this page, you want to make sure you reach out to us here at support, make us aware that you're having a problem so we can get that resolved for you. This slide's been here for a while. This is about the training events. We have webinars, virtual conferences, and some in-person training events. All of those offer CPE credits, and they're amazing. I see them listed all over the place. You can see I have 4 currently available for webinars and 2 for virtual conference events. Head on over. This link is in the handout. You want to head on over and check that out for the training events. Now, also from that training events page in that upper left-hand corner, there's a link for QuickBooks tutorials, and that'll take you to a place where we've got these brief, anywhere from 1 to 3 minute videos on different areas of the program. We have it for small business and for accountants. So you can actually provide this page to your clients and let them self-teach or self-help in a lot of areas of the program. That is available in the handout. With QuickBooks Online Advanced coming out and QuickBooks Online Plus and QuickBooks Essentials having usage limits, I want to make sure that we provided a resource so that you could understand and see how to learn about usage limits, how to measure those usage limits for your clients. And if you have any further questions about this, make sure that you email me at intheknow@intuit.com, and I'll make sure that we get that addressed for you. The QuickBooks Accountant Help Hub, just a great area for you to find additional resources for finding answers to your questions about a bunch of different areas in the program. What you'll see there, you can browse topics anywhere from accountant building to tax and year end, getting started, all the different reports, understanding bank feeds. This is an excellent resource for self-help. The Firm of the Future is a blog. I work very closely with the Firm of the Future team, and sometimes they cover things that I don't have the opportunity to cover in the Know, and vice versa. So in order to make sure that you're seeing everything that we're offering to you every month, you might want to go ahead and attend the Know webinar and review the Firm of the Future blog. That link is available. You can go to firmofthefuture.com. It's a pretty simple URL, or you can download that handout, and that link is available to you in the handout. Finally, we have the redesigned ProAdvisor program FAQ. Recently, we redesigned the ProAdvisor program. There is a new tier called Elite. What is the Elite tier? And what else has changed in the program? All those questions can be answered at the community article linked in the handout. I'd like to thank you. This is Wayne Daly again. This was the June in the Know webinar, and you guys are why we do what we do. Thank you for being there for your clients, and thank you for allowing us to be here for you. Until next month, have a great day.